Most Americans can name the big turning points of world history: D-Day, the moon landing, the fall of the Berlin Wall. But very few know that in the winter of 1919, a strange chain of events began with a forgotten letter in a rural Polish village and ended with a quiet confrontation in Washington, D.C., one that almost changed the entire direction of U.S. foreign policy. This is the story of Jakub Krawiec, an obscure railway telegraph operator whose accidental discovery, buried in a torn, mud-soaked envelope, sparked a silent race between diplomats, revolutionaries, and intelligence officers on two continents. It is a story pieced together from U.S. National Archives memos, declassified OSS reports, and Polish municipal records. But for decades, the full narrative remains scattered across languages, countries, and forgotten storage rooms. What follows is the first attempt to assemble the entire story in one continuous narrative. A story of espionage, migration, coded messages, and a mystery that, if true, suggests the United States avoided a major crisis not because of generals or presidents, but because of one underpaid telegraph worker who never set foot in America. The snow had been falling for 3 straight days, the kind of dense, unforgiving winter that made the rural outskirts of Lublin feel like the edge of the world. Jakub Krawiec, 32 years old and already stooped from years of leaning over telegraph desks, pushed open the wooden door of the railway outpost. A gust of icy wind followed him in. "You're late again, Kuba," muttered old Marek, the station guard, though he offered a half smile. Jakub stamped the snow off his boots. "The roads are worse than yesterday. I had to help a horse cart out of a ditch." "Everything is in a ditch these days," Marek grumbled, poking at the dying fire. It was January 1919. Poland had only recently regained independence after more than a century of partitions, and the entire region felt like it was struggling to wake from a long sleep. The railways were barely functional, the telegraph lines unreliable, and the political situation volatile. Jakub hung his coat and stepped toward the telegraph desk. The equipment was old, German-made, left behind during the retreat at the end of the Great War. "One bundle of letters arrived before dawn," Marek said, gesturing toward a small burlap sack on the table. "Found along the tracks, probably fell off a courier's wagon." Jakub raised an eyebrow. Lost mail wasn't unusual, but the bag was half frozen and covered in dirt, suggesting it had been outside for days. He opened the sack. Inside were a handful of letters, most smeared with mud. One envelope in particular caught his eye: thick paper, sealed with a dark red wax stamp that had partially cracked. There was no return address, and no recipient. Only a date written in hurried ink: 4 December 1918. "Strange," Jakub murmured. He turned it over several times, searching for any hint of origin. That was when he noticed a faint impression on the broken wax. Not a crest, not a family seal.